Alright guys, today we got another project on the Durango. I went out to the junkyard yesterday to get some parts for the Jeep, and I got caught in a little bit of traffic. It was about 103 out, and it started running warm. So today we're gonna do a coolant flush. Basically, coolant, aka antifreeze, or coolant, whatever you decide to call it, is very, very important to the operation of your vehicle. Basically, all the extra heat that's created inside the engine has to go somewhere, and so your car has a cooling system to get rid of the extra heat. It consists of a few different parts. There's a water pump down there. There's the hoses. This is the upper hose, and there's a lower hose, and then you have a radiator here. Kind of looks like this. This is your AC condenser, where basically back here, the water flows through these tubes, the air goes over all these little channels, and it gives off its heat. And it's important to make sure, it basically maintains the engine temperature. There's a thermostat down in here that opens and closes depending on, how hot it is, how cold it is, and then you have a fan right here, and then there's also on this model, it's an 03, so there's an electric fan down in here, which when you turn the air conditioning on, it helps keep the truck cool. So the AC works when you're in an intersection. When this fan right here that's driven off the belt, it varies depending on engine RPM. So if you're sitting in an intersection idling, it won't spin as fast, so this electric fan helps keep it cool when you're sitting at an intersection. But got a new camera, still trying to figure it out. Phone's kind of acting weird, so it's supposed to be communicating with it anyway. Never used a GoPro before, so we'll see. Yeah, looks like it's working. All right, so a really important thing to remember is that antifreeze is really, really bad if you let it out in the environment. I mean, eventually it biodegrades from what I've been told, but it has a really, really sweet taste to it. So if an animal were to drink it or something, or even a human, it'll result in kidney failure and it will kill you. So basically what you need to do is make sure that you dispose of it properly. I normally will drain it and I'll put it back in the jug that it came from, and then just take it to the household hazardous waste or a local shop or whoever will take it. But yeah, it's not a good idea to let it go down the drain. But you can see, it looks green here, but I can tell it's a little rusty. When I pulled the coolant cap off, the water was kind of rusty. So the guy I got it from said that his sister kind of just put water in it, and there's a little bit of coolant in here. It should be a nice green. This one's kind of, rust green color. So first order of business, we'll get under here and we will find where the drain is for the radiator. Now, like I said, I don't necessarily like being under this truck yet because of its massive spider infestation, but it seems to have gone away. So yeah, if any of you know anything about black widows, it's very much ideal not to get bit by them. But you can see the drain is right in there. So what I'm going to try to do is stick a hose on the end of it and run it into the drain pan. So let me go grab one and I'll come back. All right, so what you want to do, I got a piece of hose, because otherwise if you don't put this on there, due to the location of it, when I open this, it's gonna spill all over the place. Sorry, it might be a little hard to hear me or understand me. A little bit under the weather. Got some cold, I don't know what's going on, but had it for a week or so. It sucks, but it's not gonna stop me from doing what I need to do. So I'm putting this hose right over the outlet there, and then I'm gonna loop this into my drain pan. I have about 6 drain pans, one for transmission fluid, one for antifreeze. This one's I keep this one clean because say you need to change the water pump on a vehicle right after you put new coolant in it, then you can go ahead and reuse it. So it looked kind of dirty, but it's really not. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this. Ooh, usually easier said than done. Okay, get my, it's all my bunch of my stuff from the junkyard yesterday. I just take a bucket It's easier that way. Now you gotta be real careful you don't crack this little drain, because if you do, you normally end up having to buy a new radiator. So let's see. It's probably gonna be pretty nasty because this is stuff that's been sitting at the bottom of the radiator. It's usually where all the garbage settles to, so it's dripping a little there. Let's see what we get out. And we're not getting anything out of the tube yet. So it might be plugged. Let's help it a little bit. Yeah, feels like it might be plugged. Let me open it a little more. Yeah, I think it's plugged. So, yeah, make sure you don't get antifreeze in your mouth, like I just did. So yeah, nothing's coming out. So what I'm gonna have to do, this stuff's already so diluted anyway, I'm just gonna have to kind of pull this guy out. Catch what you can. Actually, I'm gonna stick my finger over it and there we go. Kind of direct it down. Like I said, this stuff's no fun. So I'm just gonna run the hose when I'm done with this and get it all diluted. Let's see. Still doesn't really want to drain. So, yeah. Feels like the little port's completely plugged. That's odd. Might have to stick a screwdriver or something in there. It shouldn't be like that. So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug that right now. All right, well, kind of looks like I got my little screwdriver to try to unplug that port. Kind of looks like when this radiator was made, they didn't actually drill out the hole in there at the factory, so I have to pull the plug the whole time. I mean, you can see it, it's kind of nasty, but there's really no particulates in it, but you really won't see any until we start doing the heavy duty wash. So that's unplugged. So what I'm gonna do, I already took the cap off. You gotta take the cap off in order to drain the radiator, or else as soon as you open it, it will create a vacuum and nothing will come out. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the upper radiator hose off, and you can see this spring in here is kind of nasty. So I have a new radiator hose. We're gonna go ahead and put that on. So yeah, you can see there's rust and stuff in here. So what I had to do, this is a coolant tank slash windshield washer tank. So what I did is there was a screw here and a screw here, and I have to disconnect it to get it out of the way because I'm gonna change the fan clutch. So basically, some cars will have just a separate one. You know, these aren't commonly tied together, but a lot of the time they'll be over here or over here, you know, next to each other. So I went ahead and disconnected that. So we'll slide this out of the way, and the end of this, make sure it doesn't spill all over the top of your engine, so we can kind of see what was in here. Yeah, and that looks pretty gross too. I mean, I've seen a lot worse, but getting new coolant's definitely not going to hurt it. Anytime I do a project like this, oil changes, tune-ups, anything with coolant where you're gonna get nasty, I tend to have a old beat up set of clothes that I wear, you know, old work uniform or something. But I've had these shoes a long time, hence why there's a hole in the toe, but I'm not going to wreck my nice ones, so garage shoes these have become. So you can see fan clutch is right here, and the fan blade, and then here's that electric fan I was telling you all about. But here's the lower hose. Let's squeeze this and see how she feels. Feels pretty good. There is a spring in it to help keep it from collapsing, which is super helpful. But what we're gonna do is take, it's kind of soft. I have a new one, so we'll go ahead and put that on. What I am gonna do is disconnect this lower hose. This is a standard hose clamp, 5/16. You can use an 8mm socket or a screwdriver or 5/16 socket, whatever you want, but I am gonna get this hose out of the way. Just be real careful if these are kind of stuck on there. You want to shake them around a little bit. Otherwise, you can actually snap the connector on the radiator off and then you're screwed. You have to buy a new radiator at that point. But this radiator is kind of funky. The ports aren't near the bottom. Usually the inlet will be here and then the outlet will be on the bottom. But the problem with the design that's on here is a lot of the crap will gather at the bottom and you can't get it out. So I'm gonna try to get this guy hose out of the way. And so we have the outlet. So what I have that I use for this job is just a piece of hose with a garden hose adapter on it. So what I normally do is shove it in here, stick a rag behind it, and then blast it a couple times with the garden hose. So we'll get that ready and we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so wrap this dirty rag around the hose, kind of shoved it in there, and get this out of the way. Because if this leaks, you don't want it getting water all over the engine. There are certain places you don't want water in. One of them's parts of your electrical system, so stay. All right, so we'll see what happens. Turn this on a little bit. I'm expecting it to blow all over the place, so. All right, getting some coming out the plug, which is normal. But for what I'm gonna do, I'll go ahead and stick the plug back in. There it is. Yeah, see, you can already see some rust coming out. So, since that's the case, what we'll do is pinch this. Gonna take this out for a minute. Yeah, truck's gonna get some water and rust and crap on it, so just be aware. It's not gonna hurt the paint or anything, just makes a mess. So I'll just basically shove this back in here and unkink it. Should start seeing, there it is, that nasty water. And all that stuff's inside the radiator. And what that does is inhibit heat transfer so that it doesn't cool as well. And unfortunately, there's really no low point drain on this thing except the little drain on the very bottom. But a lot of the cars, if the lower hose connects at the very bottom of the radiator, you can get a lot more garbage out because that's where it all settles. But we'll let this flow for a few minutes and we'll come back. All right, so it's running clear out of the radiator. So what I'm gonna do is put this cap back on. I'm not gonna get a whole lot out because the thermostat's closed right now, but I'm gonna stick the hose in here. And go very slow. Yeah. Yeah, I need to pull the thermostat out if I'm gonna do any serious block flushing. So anyway, the thermostat lives down in there. It's kind of a bear to get to, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the tools to at least change this hose. All right, so I got a lot of it flushed. So it started running cool, but while we're here, we're gonna go ahead and take this fan clutch off and get it changed. Because when I was sitting in the traffic, I didn't hear the fan make a noise, which is telling me that it's not exactly the happiest. The problem is, as you can see, the fan clutch is free spinning, and you gotta unscrew this, but when you put the wrench on there to do it, this is a fan clutch wrench, there's the other half of it. It spins, as you can see, so there's multiple ways to do it, but on this one, it doesn't look like I have a whole lot of options, so I gotta take this belt off, the serpentine belt, and this is your belt tensioner. it has a spring that wants to push the pulley that way, and it keeps constant tension on your belt. So we'll change the belt on this thing at some point, show you how to do it. But what you do is put your wrench on that, and as you can see, if I move it, it takes tension off the belt. So what you do is you just move it. I'm going to take it off the alternator here and slowly let it go. Try to make sure it doesn't run into anything. Like this guy's kind of stuck on here on this AC line, but we can go ahead and leave it right there. But what I do need to do is basically get the belt off this pulley right here. Like I said, there's really no good way to keep that thing from spinning. So what I try to do is usually try to get something behind it, or you can use an air chisel. I mean, I haven't really found a good way to do it unless you have the set, so let me get a small pair of channel locks or something. We'll see what we can do. I haven't had to do one of these on a Dodge in a long time, so see where we're at. All right, it's about an hour and a half later. Now what you guys did not get to see was me fighting to get this unscrewed. There's a fan clutch set for a Chevy and a fan clutch set for a Ford, but I haven't been able to find one for a Dodge. At least not around here in stock. So what I ended up doing was an old school trick that I learned way back in the day, where essentially when you have a bolt that's stubborn, you can use an impact wrench or an impact driver, and it'll, you know, kind of impact the bolt and then cause it to break loose. Well, you can't on this. And I was just trying to use a wrench, and all it was doing was spinning the pulley. So the trick I learned back in the day was use an air chisel and put it on one of the lands on the nut and just, you know, squeeze the trigger, it'll go brrr, and it actually unscrewed it. And then same thing to put it back on. Makes it easy, and it's essentially, this thing just hits it really, really, really fast, and it caused it to break loose, because it's been about an hour and a half with big pipe wrenches and everything, and I didn't want to break anything further. So once I did that, I ended up changing this hose, so this one's new, and I have a new one for this, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it on now. But I have to do the overflow bottle first. Now what I did with the overflow bottle was drain what was in there into the pan, and then spray the inside with the hose and drained it into there, so all the crap that was in there came out. So go ahead and put this back. This basically is like the other half of the fan shroud, so you gotta make sure it's lined up, and there's some tabs on the bottom of it, so everything falls back where it should be. But that's in. And just gotta get there's the old clutch. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these back in, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, the overflow bottle / shroud is back on and properly lined up. Now what we're gonna do next is put the new upper hose on. Now, as you can see down in here, there's not a whole lot of room, but you gotta make sure you orient the hose clamp so that you can actually get the extension through here. So what I'm gonna do is dip the hose ends in the antifreeze, because besides making sure that the coolant doesn't freeze, the antifreeze actually also acts as a water pump lubricant. So that's why when you touch it, it feels a little bit slippery. So make sure this goes on all the way. And loosen this. Get it down past this wire. Careful not to nick it, because that's the positive wire, the charge wire that goes to the alternator from the battery. So come on. Sometimes when the hose clamps get old, they're finicky. So get it in here. There we go. Oh, that wasn't good. There went the other hose clamp. But make sure when you put this on that there's a little ridge right here at the top of the thermostat housing, and make sure that the clamp is actually slid down a little bit, or slid up, so push it down a little. Make sure it's past the little ridge so that when you tighten it down, it'll bite down into the hose before that and keep it from going over it, or else it'll pop off. And then your engine will overheat and cause some damage. So, all right, that one's on. Shouldn't go anywhere. Now the other one, yeah, crap. Oh, there it is. Didn't go too far, thankfully. So slide this braided part down. They put this on. It's kind of a chafe shield so that if it's gonna chafe, it'll chafe against this. It's gonna hit right here, so it'll chafe against that instead of the hose itself. So I gotta zip tie this wire up out of the way or something so it doesn't rub on this manifold, because this manifold's kind of rough and could cause abrasion on that wire. But anyway, here's the other end. Ooh. This clamp's kind of almost maxed out. We'll see if I can use it. If not, I'll go get another one. It's not a big deal. And it looks like this is cut to fit. It's just pretty long, so looks like I'm gonna have to cut some extra off because it's supposed to lock down in there. So I'm gonna go get a blade and I'll be back. Well, as you can see, I had to cut some off that hose to make it short enough. It's not an OEM hose, so a lot of the time they're cut to fit, so you just take a razor blade or a box cutter and cut off what you don't need. So anyway, got my new cap, got the overflow bottle in. Let's plug this in. What I'm gonna do now is get down here and make sure that the drain plug is in, which it's just stuck in there, it's not screwed in. So go ahead and screw this in. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and start filling the coolant. This is Prestone 50/50. It already has water in it, so you don't have to add anything to it. So if you get the standard concentrate, you have to add water to it. Should always use distilled water at the minimum, filtered, but distilled's always better. So basically this stuff just lets me just pour it in until it gets here, then I'll start it and we'll go ahead and slowly bleed it out. So we'll go ahead and fill it. Try not to spill any on the belt, because like I said earlier, this does have lubricant in it for the water pump, so it can make your belt slip. I'm gonna have to do this a couple times, flush the coolant in this because it's pretty nasty. So you can hear it slowly going down through the thermostat. I will do the thermostat at some point, but I just need to get some new coolant here moving around. See how she does. There's gonna be a lot of air down inside the top of the motor, so it's slowly gonna bubble out, but I'm gonna keep adding this and I'll come back when I'm done. All right, got this filled, poured a bunch in there. Now basically, what you wanna do is start the vehicle, set the heat on max, and then let it warm up. And basically all the air will purge out of the engine. And then if it needs some, it'll suck it out of the reservoir. But unfortunately, since this cap isn't at the highest point, it really won't do me any good to leave it open once the engine's running. Now there's two different kinds of caps. There's this one, which is a standard one. You open it and it'll pop off. Or you have this one, which basically if you want to relieve the pressure, you can lift this little tab and it'll relieve the pressure into the bottle so that you can open it. It's really your choice. The relief ones are a little more expensive. I tend to like them. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and start the truck and I'll come back with you. All right, once the engine's running, you're probably going to need to keep topping it off because it'll drink some. You can squeeze the hose and it'll get some of the air out, but as soon as I started it, it sucked the hose dry, so just kind of got to keep an eye on it because it's going to take it. Then basically let it come up to operating temperature, and then just keep an eye on it. It'll bubble out and keep drinking coolant. Once it's up to temperature and the thermostat opens, it'll fill this tube with coolant, because right now the water is going through the heater cores, the front and the back, because this one has two, instead of going through the radiator. Basically the thermostat controls the operating temperature of the engine, like I mentioned earlier. So right now, since the engine's cold, it's just running through the heater. And then once it comes up to operating temperature, if it needs, it'll open the thermostat and start sending coolant to the radiator and cooling it off before it goes back to the engine. So the thermostat opens and closes depending on what the engine temperature is. So that's why you want to get it up to temperature so the thermostat can open and get out any air bubbles. So that's pretty much the coolant flush process. Sorry, I wasn't as in-depth as I should have been. That fan clutch kind of threw me for a loop and wore me out. So anyway, stay tuned for more. This truck should be running a lot cooler, and we'll go ahead and do the thermostat at some point later, and hopefully that'll be it. All right, guys, thanks. Have a good day.